Okay, wiggle my cord. Thanks. I love all the Go Texan products. If you don't know what we're talking about, all the Go Texan products have an emblem now that lets you know that they're made in Texas. And you can get a lot of these products at Greenfields Market where I like to shop. It's locally owned. There's quite a bit of organic, free range, all natural type stuff. And a lot of local growers get to sell there. So today we're making beer braised short ribs, and we're braising those with a brown ale from the Real Ale. Oh, it's open. Thank you for that. The Real Ale Brewery, which is right here in Texas, and this is a pretty hearty dish. So we're gonna start off with seasoning our short ribs, and Miss Sandra is gonna help me. If you go to Greenfields Market, you're gonna see her there somewhere. Mostly in the marketing in the back, but she'll run out and help you if you're like, I need some help with something. I'm putting salt, pepper, and garlic powder on these. Perfect, and you can just get them as saturated and all the yummy spices as you want. Somebody suggested to me to do fajita seasoning with these, and you certainly could. This is what we're looking for on the sear. You can get this as much as you possibly can, all seared up on every side. These are boneless because our friends at Greenfields Market have boneless, but you can certainly get the bone-in ribs. You just don't want to get the cross-cut ribs if you have children, because after you braise these up and they start to fall off the bone, you're just going to have chunks of bone floating in the soup. So make sure you get the ones that look like a rib and they're attached vertically, and not the ones that are cut all the way through and have fragments of bone. And those will always say cross-cut or cross-hatch on them. Turning these over again. How are you coming along? And she's also got 4 garlic cloves that she's crushing up. And you always want to crush your garlic, even if you're going to leave it whole, because that's how the enzymes are created that make garlic smell strongly, the sulfuric compounds. They come out only when the cell walls break down and a component called allicin is synthesized. That's where all the health benefits of garlic come from. That's where all the flavor comes from. And it is true that the longer you let it sit, the more garlicky it will be. Sanger, S-A-N-G-E-R, and it means to caramelize the tomato product, which over time is going to give you much more depth of flavor with your soups or stews. It's not really the cooking of the meat that's happening here. It's just the caramelizations of the trace sugars in the tomato paste. Our short ribs now. And it's just now starting to happen. The tomato paste will go from a bright red to a deeper brick red. And that's when you know that the caramelization has taken place, and you can go ahead and incorporate them back into the pot. Okay, Sandra, I'm ready for you. You have the tongs? Okay? So we're going to add our short ribs back in, and we're going to go ahead and add our beer. Excellent. Yeah, you add the whole beer, and the rest are for sharing. And then we have our Texas fruit salsa. This is a San Antonian that made this. She's right over here. Her name is Brenda. She's a real lady who had too many tomatoes, and that's how she started making salsa. And I think this is one of the best salsas I've ever tasted. And we're going to have a jar in this recipe, a whole jar. I use the mild, but you could also use the medium, where you get to go about the rest of your day, because that's all there is to it. Now we're going to put it in right now for about 300 to 350 for 2.5 hours to 3 hours. But like I said, feel free to turn down the oven and to go a longer amount of time. These are just like this is just like brisket. Now the next recipe that we're going to be making to go with this is polenta, which is simply grits. Polenta is what they call it in Italy, and they serve it savory, which is something that you don't often see here in Texas. And that's going to start with our 6 cups of chicken stock. You can use water, you can use vegetable stock if you're a vegetarian. And you can go ahead and start sprinkling the polenta in a little bit at a time, because if you throw it all in at once, it's going to have the tendency to coalesce and clump up when it hits the chicken broth. Perfect. This will be the opportunity to also add any fresh herbs, anything that you've got coming out of the garden. This will have a little bit to cook. And this is very much like a pilaf if you wanted it to be. If you wanted to saute some vegetables first and then go ahead and heat your chicken broth in your polenta, you could certainly do that. That's an excellent job. Do you need a job, or do you like it at Greenfields? Okay. Because we're always looking for cooks.
See, if I can make this, anybody can make this. Take the recipe home.
Definitely. This is a very forgiving recipe, as is any meats that you braise or barbecue, unless you just flat out burn them, because you're going to get the opportunity to turn down the heat and cook it for a really low amount of time. And that means you're not going to burn anything, and you're going to have plenty of time to ask questions, or Google, or call Grandpa and make sure that you're doing it like he does it. Perfect. The polenta is also one of those dishes that you just can't really mess with. Once it begins to look like grits, which you'll see, this looks like soup, and soon it'll just start to kind of look like grits, that's when you'd want to turn it down. And you'd want to continue cooking it until it forms one mass. And sort of, when you stir it, it will pull away from the sides, because instead of just being one lump, it is now something that is holding together. And that's perfect. Now we have one that we started earlier today. And it's already cooked, and we're going to go ahead and season it for you with all of the flavors that go with this dish. So now, as you can see, it's one lump rather than individual granules. And we're going to go with this with a little bit of cream, about 4 ounces to a cup, depending on how creamy you like your kind of flavors. So we're just going to give an opportunity for the cheese to melt. We used a white cheddar. I used an aged cheddar. They have them from Vermont. They have them from New York. We just used one from Australia. And the more sharp they get, the longer they're aged. So instead of being a creamy cheddar that you might see, it's going to crumble and break apart as you cook it, as you cut it. And that's because it's been aged so long that it's concentrated and there isn't as much moisture like ribs. And you're going to serve it right on top of your polenta with the meat sauce. The salsa became a gravy, and it's going to provide moisture to the dish. It's a really soupy dish, perfect to serve in a bowl with all sorts of strong Texas flavors. Yes, ma'am. Let me just test it for seasoning. Oh, that's really cheesy. That's good. We like cheesy here in Texas. Okay, so I'll let you guys start plating this up. We're just gonna get one last sprinkle of chives. I have some chives in the refrigerator, so I'm just gonna use those and a little bit of parsley. That'll really pick the dish up visually to try to buy locally. It's becoming more of a trend. But you're going to find that because there's less transport, there's less preservatives, everything tastes a little bit better, and you probably feel a little bit better because you might meet that person one day at the rodeo or at the state fair and then see that you use their products and they live just down the street from you. Well, I hope you guys liked it. My name is Sarah, and I'll be up here if you need anything, or you can also go to our website at chefforlife.com. I'm a personal chef, but I'm a nice San Antonio girl, and if you ever have any cooking questions, you can write me a little email, and I might even post it on my blog. And also, you can visit Greenfields Market for any of these products. So thanks, guys, and I hope you enjoy.